right, 20 past the 4 o'clock hour. We'll continue talking a little NBA. We'll bring in our resident Hoops Insider, Jonathan Marshall, at John_Marshall3. And, of course, sports reporter anchor at WMUR. I wonder how much snow he is getting. I bet you are getting hammered up there. What's going on?
You have me cracking up on the other end. You have me cracking up. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm up here in New England, so the snow has been pretty consistent, but it's more about the cold. But it's like a balmy, mild 30 degrees, not too bad.
Come on, man, stop it. I'll tell you where it's getting a little frosty and chilly in our backyard with the 76ers. All right, let's start with this. If you are a GM and you're contemplating making a trade with the 76ers, do you just kind of hang up the phone and chuckle every time their GM tells you exactly what he wants back in return?
I do. Because, I mean, you got to realize, like, what do we have in Ben Simmons, right? Like, forget about potential. Forget about what people think that he should be. What is he? Okay? He's a talented point guard, great vision, great handles, great defender. But in today's game, he's a liability when it comes to being a limited offensive player, when it comes to attacking, being aggressive, being able to hit free throws at a competent clip. I'm not, like, who do you think we're talking about here? This isn't even Kyrie Irving we're talking about. We're not talking about Steph Curry. We're not talking about Dame. We're not talking about Ja Morant. We're talking about a guy in today's landscape of the league. Look at all the top point guards. They can give you 20 and 30 a night and dish it out. That's not Ben. Ben needs to have the right pieces around him in order for that situation to work out. He needs shooters around him. So if I have a roster that's not constructed like that, what are we even talking about?
Yeah.
I'm no longer getting caught up in the potential of Ben Simmons. I'm realizing what Ben Simmons is, and that's who he's going to be.
I just, my issue, the GM, he doesn't want to budge, though. See, that's the problem. Whether there's a report about Golden State or Sacramento or Portland, the Kings have been known to have Simmons on their radar, right? I mean, they've never made Fox unavailable, but they have other players on the roster to offer for Simmons that could potentially fit around Embiid. I mean, I don't know. Like, what happens if we get past February 10th, the trade deadline, and he's still on the roster?
If we get past the trade deadline and Ben Simmons is still contractually obligated to the Sixers, it will be arguably one of the most wasted years of an NBA player's prime. That's, I mean, because, you watch what Joel Embiid's doing. You watch last night's game, 50 points in 27 minutes, and you enjoy it, but in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, wow, all of this, and is it going to be another first-round exit?
Yep.
Is it going to be, second-round exit? Like, what's the ceiling for this roster currently constructed? Because Joel Embiid he's playing even better than last year. You can make that case. But what is it all for? If it doesn't end up, at least in the Eastern Conference appearance, under this team currently constructed, no, they're not getting it done. They're not. And so, yeah, I think back on it, if Ben Simmons is still a Sixer past the deadline, this could be one of the most wasted years of an individual player's prime in NBA history. Like, that's how I would view this season for the Sixers.
Yeah, so here's the one thing that kind of bothers me too, right? If we go back and, as you mentioned, wasting Embiid's prime, right? You're wasting Joel Embiid's prime. So you can actually now go back and revision his history. Now all of a sudden you go back to Hinkie and the tank job and all the assets they acquired. I mean, what have you won? Like, to me, this is insanity, right? Because nobody wants to be in purgatory in the NBA, which is basically you're 6th, 7th, or 8th seed, and you're bounced in the first round. I got news for Sixers fans out there. If they don't figure this out, this is exactly where this franchise is going to be over the next 5, 6, 7 years. So you have to almost say to yourself, what was it worth it? Because it's great to have this shiny toy, right? It's great to have Embiid right there. You got the gorgeous car in the driveway, it's souped up, it's unbelievable, but yet we failed to look under the hood, or we haven't made sure if the tires aren't flat. I mean, that's what this franchise is right now. You got the toy and Embiid, but you really haven't surrounded them with the right points. So it's almost like, was this all worth it?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, obviously, the process, it was a long ordeal. You look at trading, you traded Markelle Fultz for a player who's not even in the league anymore. I give you, can you guess who they traded him for? He's not even playing anymore. You look at the contract given to Tobias Harris, which to this day is just, it's ridiculous. And now you see his name being brought up in trade rumors. That's for a reason. Good luck on trying to find somebody who can take on that contract versus what he's producing. You look at allowing Jimmy Butler to walk away, and he led Miami to the finals.
That's right.
So you look at the draft day decisions, the contract situations. You had J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler. You had a roster that was really, really solid, and you allow those guys. It's just currently constructed. This team is not fit to compete at the highest level, especially how the NBA game is played right now. There's a lack of perimeter scoring, perimeter just presence out there. Outside of Tyrese Maxey, what other perimeter presence, dynamic presence do you have? It's the same conversation. And if the team continues to go on this way, it's going to be the same frustrations. Joel Embiid is going to do his thing. Tobias Harris, you're not going to know what he's going to do.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah. And the Eastern Conference is interesting, right, because you thought maybe the doors opened up a little bit with Durant going down. Now, from an MVP betting standpoint, from a voting standpoint, Embiid was 40, then 15, then 12-1 going into last night, scores 50+. They win, right? Now, all of a sudden, those odds have dropped to 7-1. I think Durant's injury kind of opens up the doors. I'm curious to get your thoughts, though, on the Nets, right? 28-16, 500 in their last 10. I know they're dealing with injuries, still trying to incorporate Kyrie back into the groove of things, so to speak. They've kind of been on and off with wins and losses over their last 10, as I mentioned, 5-5, 500. But yet, they're 2 up on the 76ers. Do you think the Kyrie, and I don't want to call it the experiment, but I'll use it as a part-time Kyrie, can this work with Brooklyn?
I really don't know. I mean, and that was the conversation with the Nets last year, right, as far as the chemistry and developing the chemistry between these guys, right? There's always something, right? Harden and Kyrie were hurt last year, and KD's hurt now, and Kyrie's a part-time player. They still haven't been able to, in year 2, they haven't been able to develop that chemistry. They really haven't played on court as often as you would like them to for multiple reasons. And so I look at that. You look at a team like a Milwaukee. You look at the Miamis. There's the continuity there with those rosters, the consistency that you can count on certain guys. With Brooklyn, yeah, the talent is there with KD and Harden and Kyrie, but are these guys going to be physically available, mentally available? Are they going to be able to actually play given Kyrie's situation? And so I can't trust it right now. I can't do it. I cannot trust it.
Yeah, and we're starting to see, we mentioned early on in the season, right, Chicago, the little baby Bulls, and then Cleveland, the wear and tear, right, the grind of an NBA season. You start to see Cleveland kind of come back a little bit back down to earth. But yet, look, in the Eastern Conference, right, I mean, there's a 2.5-game separation between the first seed and the 6th seed with the Cavs, right? And then you look at Charlotte, Washington, the Celtics, the Raptors, the Knicks kind of fell through the wayside. Cleveland already hit their win total. Their total going into the season from an odds standpoint was 26. They already won 27, so that's a hell of a job with the Cavs. And then you look at Milwaukee, right? Quietly we forget. Here's a team that is a defending NBA champs. However, they have dropped 2 of 3, 4 of their last 6. I mean, I know they're shorthanded, and it's great if you get Giannis to give you 33 and 15 every night, and Middleton with his 25, 26. That's not always going to be the case. Where are you right now with Milwaukee? Do you still believe they are the team that eventually will surpass Chicago, more or less on Chicago just not having been there before, so to speak, over the last few years?
Yeah, I still think Brooklyn and Milwaukee, all things being equal, health concerns, everything being on an even line, I still think Milwaukee is a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. Giannis, he's unbelievable. He's proven. And, I mean, that championship experience, that run is priceless. When you're talking about Giannis reaching that next level and the other supporting guys having that confidence and experience, it's just priceless. And so they are the champs until defeated, right? And so I have to give them that much respect. In Chicago, that was a team I was very high on. They've shown against Golden State and Brooklyn but they haven't risen to the occasion. So they still have to prove something against those top teams. And so Milwaukee has proven themselves, and Milwaukee, as far as I'm concerned, 1-2 when it comes to Brooklyn and Milwaukee in the East.
What are the chances that the Lakers become sellers? Come on, man, they stink. They're 13 back.
But what moves? Like, people keep talking about these changes that need to be made. Yeah. What changes are being made?
You got to get
can be made.
You got to get Westbrook off that roster.
You know how much he's making, right?
I'm well aware. But you know what? There's always every day breeds a new fool. I'm telling you right now. I mean,
he's making what, $40 million to get benched at the end of the game?
Okay. Then let me ask you this: then you can't sit him, right? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
True. Look, that's why they're stuck. Honestly, Q, their best hope is that AD gets healthy and AD plays like he's supposed to play.
They're not going to do anything in the Western Conference.
They're cooked.
They're not even going to make the playoffs.
They're not like after the big Utah win. I said, look, the next game, watch them lose, and lo and behold, they lose it. Like they made Karis LeVert look like Michael Jordan last night. Like he dropped a 30-piece on them. Like this team this is not a good basketball team. It's not. And their only hope is for AD to come back and play like he's supposed to play, which he hasn't played like that pre-injury this season. So that's their only hope. They're stuck.
Why do these organizations, though, think they can kind of go into the fountain of youth, right, by bringing on some of these veterans? And it's funny, we saw this years ago when they decided we'll make a run with Karl Malone and Gary Payton. Remember that? How'd that work out? So now you're bringing Carmelo, you bring in Westbrook, you got an aging LeBron, you got an injured Davis. I mean, and what, boardroom are we talking, meeting of the minds, where they think that was actually going to be a good idea? Because I remember before these moves were made and people were contemplating this, there's not enough balls to go around for those egos on that roster.
Well, you said it, the meeting of the minds, who's making these decisions. Well, the unspoken, around in circles. LeBron is the ultimate decision maker when it comes to these moves, right? So you got to look at LeBron when it comes to this roster construction, adding in a Carmelo. If LeBron's not on his roster, is Carmelo there? No. Like, if LeBron's not on his roster, is Russell Westbrook there? I don't think so. So, you think about having a chance to get Buddy Hield and DeMar DeRozan, and you get Russell Westbrook, that's flagrant. Yeah. Imagine where this team is at if they were able to add DeMar DeRozan or Buddy Hield. Imagine where they're at.
So
much better place than they are now.
Here's what bothers me. Why did the head coach have to have permission to bench Russell Westbrook?
That just goes to show you his standing in that organization.
I mean, that's like Titanic, man. Get me off this thing. I'm a head coach. Let me run the yeah, they are. They are, which tells me if they go in a tailspin, you might see this head coach out of a job at the All-Star break.
It wouldn't shock me, but I hate that Frank Vogel is the major scapegoat, and I don't think that's fair. I mean, he's not completely absolved from blame, but there's a total organizational problem that this franchise has right now from top to the bottom. Like you said, the roster construction. Like, great jobs of getting, Austin Reeves and Malik Monk, Stanley Johnson. These are nice young guys who are starting to get some big roles on this team. But outside of that, you thought Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, Rajon Rondo, you thought this was going to work?
Yeah.
Nah. No. Somebody has to answer for that. And Frank Vogel, these were the pieces he was given. And I get it as a coach. You get the pieces and you got to make it work. But sometimes it's just the challenge is it's just too much.
Well, think about it. What are they? 2 years removed away, right?
Yeah.
From when and I like Vogel, man. He's a local guy. He's a Wildwood guy. He's a guy down the shore. So it's just it's tough to see. I know when we talk about some of these other teams before I let you get out of here in the Western Conference, Phoenix, Golden State, your Grizz, and then you got the Utah Jazz. Give me a team that we haven't really talked about too much that you think, you know what, you're starting to see something you like. Maybe it's Denver, maybe it's Dallas. That's won, 9 out of their last 10. That could potentially be a surprise here.
I will say Denver with the only caveat is they get Jamal Murray back. If you see what the Joker is doing, he's doing what he does, right? He had a 49-point triple-double. if Jamal Murray is able to come back by playoff time, and he's at least 80%, Denver can give some teams because they have the experience. They've been there. I think Denver is just missing that extra scoring punch to help out the Joker. If Jamal Murray can come back, then I'll say Denver. Dallas, Luka, great player, but once again, I'm not huge on Porzingis as your two option. I'm not a believer. So that's why I still kind of So I would say Denver only if Jamal Murray is able to come back. And Michael Porter, they're without Michael Porter too, so they're missing two of their big guys. If they're able to get both those guys back, Denver will definitely be a tough out.
We talk about all these surprises, right, and then the usual suspects with some of these disappointing seasons thus far. I don't hear a lot of people waxing poetic about the Clippers.
Well, yeah, I mean, no Kawhi, no PG. Both LA teams, they're cooked.
Yeah.
I mean, the Clippers are relying on Reggie Jackson, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
No, it's that's one of the reasons I think the NBA is tough to kind of even bet on. I mean, last night you're lucky Embiid nails one from two from the line, right? Because that line's 12.5. It hits at 13. You win the bet, but I look at some of these games. Even it's a light night tonight. You got three games. You got Phoenix and Dallas, the Pacers and the Warriors, and I believe the Knicks are in action against New Orleans. It's so hard, to bet on some of these games. That's why I'm more inclined prior to the season to either do MVP, to do once-in-a-while player props, or to do win totals. Because nightly basis, man, I would just sweat it out too much.
Oh, no, it's tough. And especially when you mentioned the Eastern Conference standings and how it's so close. You don't know. Like, teams will look good one night, and the next night it's a whole different situation. And add in the health and safety protocols every other night. I don't know who's going to show up. I really don't know. You don't know who's going to be there. Coaches are missing games. So it's wild, and it's a long season, 82 games. So it's going to be a lot of ups and downs and just a lot of parity, especially in that Eastern Conference. You mentioned a couple games separating 2 through 8, 2 through 9. It's just so tight right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's just like I said, the Sixers are going to win their 35, 40 games. They'll get in the playoffs, and then they're going to get bounced. And then we'll be right here talking about the same nonsense a year from now.
It's simple to me, Q. You need a perimeter. You need some perimeter scoring, some playmaking. You need a point guard out there. First kind of court match should not be running point at any given time. That's just inexcusable. Sacramento's not. I would love the Aaron Fox if I'm a Philly GM. If I'm Daryl Morey. If they're not giving him up, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes. That's more than enough. All three guys can contribute. Buddy Hield provides you what you need, which is shooting. Halliburton, a young, talented point guard. That's what you need. It's simple to me. It's not rocket science. It's not.
February 10th, is he moved or not?
Yes.
Where does he go?
Sacramento. That's what I would say, Sacramento.
What do you think they get in return?
Halliburton, Hield, maybe another vet, Harrison Barnes, maybe Marvin Bagley, maybe, and maybe a first-rounder. That's what I would say. That would be my guess. But this soap opera, who knows? But I would lean toward a Sacramento type deal. It makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? You're not the GM.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, man.
But what do I know, Q? What do I know?
You know more than I do. And apparently, the guys on Twitter know more than I do. So, I mean, go figure. All right, my friend. I'm telling you, this weather's down south, brother. Got to just get out.
Look, yeah. I've been down south. I made the move up north, and, sometimes I'm like, man, it wasn't too bad down there.
Well, hold on. What do we got, a multi-year deal that we're talking about with you, or is this a year contract? Or you don't have to disclose?
It's multi-year. It's multi-year. Veterans minimum. That's men.
Oh, those are the worst kind of deals. Oh, my goodness.
Hey, look,
I will never forget when I actually signed like a salary to go on radio. I was ecstatic. You know how much my first, I don't even call it a radio contract, my first real steady income with radio was probably, I'm going to say 2000 and maybe one. It was right around the time I came back from doing radio in Ohio. It was $18,000.
Those were the good old days, back when media, they were paying you guys back then, huh?
Now I'm losing.
Cost of living, though, wasn't, inflation. It's just, things have changed these days.
Content is great. I feel like I'm losing money now. Content, at least let me go somewhere where the weather's nice. Content
Tell me about it.
Is key. All right, brother. I always appreciate you. Enjoy the games. Have a good week. Stay warm.
All right, Q. I appreciate it.
All right, you got it. My guy, Jonathan Marshall. Yeah, $18,000. Yep. I mean, I can do the math on the other side. 442 Sports Flash.